Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week's video is all about good quality clothing. I think especially in the times we're living in, there's this rethinking and reconsidering happening right now about how we should consume fashion, for example. I personally have decided a few years ago that rather than buying loads and loads of clothing items for a cheap price tag, I want to buy good quality clothing. I'm all about being really conscious about what you're buying and how much you're going to wear it. So with this video, I want to help you guys out there to determine what good quality actually is. Because I remember when I was younger, I had no idea how to distinguish between good quality and bad quality, and that only changed because I started my dressmaking, and that way I actually got a feeling about what is good, what is not as good. And I just want to pass on what I've learned over the past couple of years to help determine what good quality is and how to find it. If you like the video, do leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would be incredibly grateful. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so point number one is try to feel the clothes. I personally prefer going into clothing stores because for me, one of the really telltale signs of determining if I think something is good quality or not is to feel the fabric, to look at the garment, to see how the fit is. All of these things are way easier when you actually try to visit a physical store, because then you have the direct feedback whether you think the clothing item is good or isn't as good. So I personally really like to go into clothing stores and I'm just walking around and just feeling the clothes that interest me. And I'm not looking at the price tag, I'm not looking at anything else, I'm just feeling the clothes. And I think that for me is a really important step. Once the clothing items passed the feel test, I will go on and look at the details, but first things first, I'm just gonna feel them. And that is something you can only do when you are in store, because when you're buying things online, you have to wait for them to arrive. Of course, you can do that as well, but it is more instant when you go into a store. So I would, if it's a new brand that you don't know so far, I would recommend checking out a physical store, if possible, of course. Okay, so the second point is take a look at the materials. The first thing I do once the clothing item passed the feel test and I had a look at it, determined for myself I like the fit, the style overall, I am gonna check the label. And that is because I want to find out what materials were used to produce this clothing item. I personally have decided to try to only wear natural fibers. Natural fibers are, for example, cotton, linen, wool, silk, cashmere, all of these kinds of fibers. These are all naturally grown fibers. So they are not only renewable, but also the composting process is going to take way less time than, for example, polyester, which is a synthetic fiber, which is basically plastic. So this is going to take way longer to decompose than having a natural fiber. So it is way better for the environment. And also, I think it just feels better when wearing it because it is naturally very breathable. I mean, every fiber, every fabric has its own properties. For example, wool is more warming than cotton. Linen is great for summer because it's very breathable. And so every fiber has their own good points and bad points. But for example, polyester is not very breathable because it's basically plastic and it's not going to be very comfortable to wear. So that's why I try to stay away from synthetic chemical fibers, which are basically, I think, every fiber that starts with poly. So polyester, as I mentioned, polyamide, polyurethane or nylon, Just basically every fabric that starts with poly, I try to avoid at any cost. Sometimes it isn't possible because, for example, swimwear or a lot of sportswear are made from these kinds of fibers because they have properties like being very elastic or things like that. So they do have their place, but for example, a blouse really doesn't need to be made from polyester. It can be made from cotton and silk and they will be wonderful, but having a polyester blouse, I really don't see the necessity in it. So that way you can also get an idea whether the clothing item is higher quality or lower quality. Another small little indicator if something is good quality or not is not only the fabrics they use, but also, for example, buttons. When you've got like a blouse or a blazer that has natural buttons, for example, horn buttons or mother of pearl buttons or wooden buttons, metal buttons, a lot of times it is a sign that something is better quality than something that has, for example, acetate buttons. I'm not saying that a clothing item that has synthetic buttons is bad or not good quality, but if a clothing item has natural buttons, it is a sign that the garment could be better quality. Okay, so let's get on to point number 3, which is look for loose threads. When you see a lot of loose threads on your garment, it is more likely that the garment isn't as good quality as a clothing item that doesn't have as many or doesn't have any loose threads, because it's a sign of how precise and how neat the tailor worked on this garment. Also, another thing you can look for is the seams in itself. So are the seams straight or are they like wobbly or wavy? That's something you can see when you have a closer look at your clothing item, which I would always recommend doing. And point number 4 is pretty similar to the one before, but it's look at the inside of your clothing items. With a lot of cheap clothes, you will see that the outside looks pretty fine, but once you look in the inside, you can definitely tell the difference. For example, if you've got, as I said, loose threads, but also if you've got unfinished seams, how are the edges finished? All of these little details are going to take more time, therefore they're going to cost the company more, and therefore cheaper brands will cut these extra costs out. They will only do the minimum to make the clothing item look decent, but they're not going to go the extra mile and gonna make the garment as beautiful on the inside as on the outside. Maybe turn it the other way around so you've got the wrong side facing you, and then just have a look. I mean, as a rule of thumb, you can almost say a garment is good quality if the inside looks so neat and precise that you would almost wear it the wrong way around and you wouldn't feel ashamed of it. Alright, so point number 5 is about money. So money is actually a tricky point because it can be an indicator, but it can also be misleading. So in general, good quality will cost a bit more just because the production costs are higher and the time that was put into making the garment was higher. So therefore, it will cost more. But a high price tag doesn't have to mean that the clothing item is better quality than something that costs a little less. I mean, you all know like designer items. They are good quality, of course, but they cost incredible amounts of money just because it is from a well-known designer brand. So they will make profit because they are Dior or Chanel or things like that. I mean, they are really well done, but I'm just saying, like a no-name brand will probably not take the same amounts of money as a big brand will, a big designer brand. You have to be careful about like thinking that more money spent is gonna be better quality. But not only about like the high price tags, you have to be careful. You also have to be careful about like smaller price tags. What I mean by that is when you've got a €10 blouse, it probably isn't going to be good quality just because the production costs are very low and there's just no way that the blouse is made from good material and is produced under good conditions and transported environmentally friendly. It's just not possible because the costs are so low. But equally, if you've got a €20 blouse, which is, double the price of a €10 blouse, it really doesn't mean that the blouse is double the quality or better in quality, because €20 is still not a lot of money to produce a blouse. Just because the blouse is double the price tag, it doesn't mean the quality is necessarily better. Money is, as I said, more an indicator than like a fixed point that you can be like, okay, this is better because this costs a little more. You know what I mean? It's a bit tricky. But you can, as I said, use it as a guideline in combination with all of the other steps that I have mentioned before. So we're on to the last point, which is point number 6. And this is all about reading up on the brand that you want to buy something from. So we really have the big advantage that we have the internet. There are so many recommendations and opinions out there that people just put into the internet and that we can just look up and get to know the brand. So whenever I hear of a new brand, I first things first, look on Instagram, look on YouTube, or use good old Google and just have a look what other people say about the brand. For me, that's something really important. A lot of my favorite brands that I buy from regularly, like Lily Silk or Max Mara or Strathberry, I found these brands through YouTubers and then went into further looking the brand up. And after that, I was pretty convinced that I wanted to buy something from them. Also, what I like to do is go on the website, look just what the brand says about themselves. I think that's sometimes also very interesting to see. So I really just read up on the brand and see what other people and the brand itself say about the clothing items. To finish up the video, I actually have 2 more tips for you. First of all, every brand has their strengths and weaknesses, and that's something you maybe need to find out as well. What clothing items are good? Some clothing items you maybe want to buy from another brand because they do it better. But that is like a learning process to just find out for yourself what kind of clothing items you like from a brand and what items you don't, because we all have our strengths and weaknesses. So of course a brand has too. So maybe they're great at cashmere, but their denim is lacking in like being the same kind of quality. So that's something to keep in mind. Every brand will probably be good at something, be really good at something, and maybe not as good at something else. And the second tip is know what you want to buy and buy clothing items for the right reasons. I know that about myself. When I feel a bit sad, I usually want to buy something to cheer myself up. In that case, you're probably gonna be less strict with yourself and less likely to follow like your checklist and see that you tick off all of the points that I mentioned previously, because you just want to buy. You want to buy to be happy, or you want to buy because you've got a need or something. And try to avoid that. So that way you're not gonna buy too many clothes that you're gonna regret later on or not wear at all, and then just give away or throw away even. Alright guys, so this was my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. For me, I just use these points as kind of a checklist whenever I go shopping. So if a clothing item checks all of the boxes, I am very likely to buy it. If 1 or 2 boxes aren't checked, I will probably not buy it. And it really worked out well for me. I am very happy with the clothing items I have in my wardrobe. Of course, I bought 1 or 2 pieces that I didn't end up wearing as much as I thought I would. But the majority of clothes that I have, I really wear every day or every week. And I am really happy with the things I picked. I really hope this kind of checklist, I'm going to call it that way, is going to help you too, and that you now have a clearer idea what to look for, what you need to do when you go shopping, or what you can do when you go shopping. You don't need to do anything, but maybe some of you out there will now have like a guideline what to look out for, and that would make me really happy. If you like the video, please do leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would be incredibly grateful. I hope you're going to have a lovely week. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you for next week's video. Goodbye.